One of the biggest things a powerlifter can do is to pay attention to their diet. I think it's becoming a little bit more mainstream and popular now for powerlifters to watch what they're eating for years, and we know from stories of Dave and his 300 plus pounds of trying to stay up that weight and what he would do to stay there. Powerlifters are now starting to be a little bit more conscious and aware of what kind of mass they're holding. So diet plays a huge part, not just in their strength and in their performance, but also in their recovery as well. So especially when you're talking about going into a meet where they have to either cut weight, make weight, rehydrate, refuel, for the next day, that's going to play a huge role in how they perform. So for a powerlifter looking to stay within their weight class, diet is by far going to be one of the biggest things that they can handle. Off-season conditioning is another thing that can help as well. If they're far enough away from a meet, add in some conditioning work, some higher volume stuff that can help keep their weight down. Some tips for athletes dieting for a show. One of the biggest things is nutrition, yes, but it's preparation. You really have to be on point and prepared with what your coach gives you to eat. If you're on the road, if you travel, if you have a job, if you have kids, you have to know what you need to eat and how to balance that in with the rest of your life. It's not an easy task. It requires a lot of Tupperware and a lot of patience from the people around you that you live with. The other thing is to make sure that your food actually tastes good, and this comes from my experience. I spent about 8 months eating probably close to the same foods, the same meals day in and day out. It varied in the amount of food I was eating, whether I was pre-contest or post-contest. By about month 8, I hit a wall where I literally had no appetite and could not stomach anything, to where all I was doing was choking down chicken and rice and drinking shakes. And finally, my coach said to me, "You need to change your food." And so we did, and it finally started to come back around again. So making sure that the food that you eat is enjoyable, but also when you're in that time period of being flexible where you're off season or you're post show, have some flexibility in your foods. You can still eat, you can still stay on point, you can still stay lean, but just being able to mix in those foods that are good, that we know we should be eating, and just have a little bit of variety, and that'll help in the long run. How do you set up your diet 4 weeks before a competition? This is a great question, and it's also very difficult to answer. 4 weeks before a comp, you're really looking at, and the question doesn't specify whether it's powerlifting or bodybuilding, so I'll go from a little bit of both aspects there. From bodybuilding, 4 weeks out, it really depends on what we did the previous 8 weeks. So for myself, most of my shows, I'm dieting for about 12 to 14 weeks. What happened those previous weeks sets me up for where I am 4 weeks out. Once I'm 4 weeks out, most everything should be dialed in. We should be almost to the leanness that we want to be. Coach checks for tightness of the skin. We might play around with a little bit of water manipulation going into the show. But at that point, you're really looking at lowering the carbs, obviously, because we want to draw some of the body fat and some of the water out. Protein usually stays about the same, and typically for most bodybuilders going into a show, fat is going to be relatively low as well. From the powerlifting side of things, 4 weeks out, you want to make sure that you're in a good place for your weight class. So if you're too far above your weight class, that's when you should start really cleaning up your diet, making sure that you can settle in nicely and make a safe weight cut. At that point, again, just clean foods. Powerlifters should just clean it up about 4 weeks out. Good quality foods, make sure they're close to your weight class, make sure you're well hydrated, again, so it makes for an easier weight cut.